So I was, with the, Palm Springs event being canceled, it was disappointing because there's nothing like, as you know, being in person um, and the one-on-one interaction. But also we're thankful for technology and that this is, possible. So, it's a big blessing for that. We love Palm Springs, particularly Joshua Tree. So we had the week blocked off or planning to go to that initially. And so since we had the week off, we decided to come to Moab, Utah, and that's where I'm at my sister-in-law's place, um, broadcasting this. And she moved here last summer, and we were excited that they moved to Moab because it's one of our favorite places in the world. Um, my boys and I went dirt biking yesterday, and I'm feeling muscles I didn't know I had. But just an amazing place. Highly recommend coming here if you ever have the chance. Um, and I'm just going to be sharing a little bit about my journey, my practices. Hopefully, I'll allow some time at the end for questions if you have any questions. Um, and So I think I'll start out by sharing a little bit about myself from Michigan and from northern Michigan. And it's a beautiful state. I know our state's been in the news a lot lately with our governor and the kidnapping attempt. It's been a pretty crazy year. The training grounds for the kidnapping attempt was actually 3 miles from my house. And so you can kind of get a visual of what my area is like a little bit. But we live in the country, and we homeschool our kids, and we have a garden. And so this is a picture of my family. Amen. Last year, I have 2 boys and a little girl, and my wife Heidi. This is at the Jacksonville beach there. It was a good time. We have horses. We do a lot of trail riding, and we love the outdoors. My dad is there in the far right, involved in Pathfinders. This is our Pathfinder group, the Bristol Bravehearts. This is a country church we go to. It's a small church. It's a beautiful setting. It's maple trees around it, and our whole family is involved in one way or another. And that it's just been a huge blessing to our family. This is Christmas party we had last year in 2 offices, and we get together for a summit typically in December. And we did a neat thing. Had someone come in with these canvases and pencil drew the basic truck or gnomes or whatever you're going to paint, and we spent time together and painted those, which was a lot of fun, relaxing. We usually rent a room. We do meals like the lunch and evening meal, and then we play games and just hang out together, which is really nice and relaxing. We usually do it at a spa, and everyone gets a spa service throughout the day too. So that's always a fun time. This is a health expo that we're involved in town. Our Adventist church sponsors that every year and organizes that, and the whole team is involved. And so that's always a blessing. This is a mission trip we went on to Kenya. And this last mission trip, I took a couple team members, a hygienist and assistant, along, and that was just a great time. This is the dental team that was there. We had an oral surgeon, the dentist from Michigan, Robin Steely. Some of you may have known him. This is the medical team on the Kenya trip. My kids helped with the optical or dispensing meds. Just a great time. This is my wife and oldest boy, and the lady who helped with the optical, doing some dentistry there. This is a guy I'll tell you about here in a few minutes. His name is Daniel. So I just wanted to show some photos as an introduction. I graduated from the University of Michigan, and I almost went to Loma Linda, but the in-state tuition compelled me to stay. Professionally over the years, I've been an associate, a 50-50 partner. I've been a solo practitioner. I've had associates, bought a second practice. I bought 4 practices over the years and sold 1. So I've had my hands in a lot of different things, and definitely have made some mistakes along the way. And I've met many of you at Amen, and that's been a huge blessing to me, just talking with you, and I've learned so much from you guys. And I don't know how much of what I'll share today will be helpful, but I know for myself, I enjoy talking with you and sharing, and I always gain a glimpse into how I can meet my patients' needs in a better way and in a Christ-centered way. So I thought I would just share some of the things I've learned over the years, and if you can benefit, something from that would be great. So my broad spectrum topic for today is dental practice efficiency. And I know dentistry and the healthcare field in general has taken a hit this year in its efficiency. We've had to implement different protocol, PPE, all those things that can slow us down. So it's a work in progress. But this world is all about change, and we've seen a lot of that this year. My first objective is how to incorporate spiritual care in the dental practice. And this is an area that I definitely have some growth to do in. I've implemented some things that have been a blessing to me. But right now, the focus, I guess, of spiritual care in my office is prayer. And with the way a dental practice runs, and I could be wrong on this because I don't have experience in other healthcare fields, but it just seems like it's more challenging in a dental setting than other venues as far as sharing, because we run so efficiently. We have high overhead. We measure things in millimeters and seconds, and so the spiritual part has been somewhat of a challenge, a hurdle that I've had to put a lot of thought into, and have gained some insight from you guys as well. But prayer is really an area that I focused on with my office, and I love the topic of prayer. I love studying about it, listening to presentations on it, and it's something that it's in my experience not easy to do. It takes discipline to pray. So I need to be reminded of its power effectiveness, the need for it in my life. So I like to immerse myself in different areas of prayer. And it's amazing thing that we can talk to our Creator, and He's there waiting and willing to answer our prayer. It's unbelievable, really, and I personally need a reminder of that constantly. Some of the ways that I've incorporated prayer into the practice is, of course, praying with patients. And this is an area that I have some growth on as well. Again, the practice runs so efficiently, I don't always take the time for it. My assistants often remind me if they're doing a screening and they're talking with the patient before I come in, and they share something sensitive that they would like prayer for. My assistant will often ask me to pray with the patient, which is great. Something that I started doing that's been a blessing is taking a picture of the schedule for the following day with all the patients on listed there, and I pray for each patient by name, either the night before or during the morning devotions, and that way I know everyone is prayed for, and I pray for the team that I work with by name as well. Another thing I do is before a procedure, particularly a surgery or something like that, I pause to myself and pray silently, and that's been helpful too. If I don't have a lot of time, at least I'm pausing and praying before a procedure. I've done the prayer box in the waiting room, like many of you have. That's been good too. Patients put in prayer requests there. I remember the first week that I put the prayer box out, I had 2 requests in the box, and one was for healing of cancer, and the other was a patient that I made a partial for. And I actually made 2 because I couldn't get it to work. It's one of those that had their partial for 30 years and loved it, and it was wore out, and you have to remake it, and you're like, oh, this is they're not going to like it as much as their new one. But so it was a struggle to get that right for him, and his prayer request is that his partial fit right. So you get all kinds of requests. The other area that I look to incorporate prayer is in the morning huddles, and I'm sure many of you are doing that as well, and that's been a big blessing to involve the team in prayer to protect us throughout the day, and that all the patients would have a good experience with their treatment, and that all the team members would be unified and have a great day as well. There was a event in July. It was July 22nd this year that every dentist nightmare happened to me. I had a patient die in the chair. I was in Op 6. My assistant was screening a new patient in Op 4. I was in the middle of a composite bonding procedure where it was etched and the matrix was on, I was ready to go. I got the emergency notification in the office. My assistant said, you have to go. So I jumped out of my chair, ran down to Op 4, and my assistant had this patient laid back in the chair, and he wasn't breathing. I checked for a pulse. There's no pulse. By that time, one of my team members had the AED out and the breathing device, trying to get that unwrapped. That wasn't working properly. I gave him 2 breaths right away, and just a side note on that, it was interesting when you take CPR class with the dummies, you give the breath and you see the chest rise and there's some resistance as you're breathing. There was zero resistance with this guy. I gave 2 breaths and I wondered if I was even doing anything, but I could see his chest rise. And when I was done with that, there's some movement, kind of some, gasping for breath. And my assistant and I were, alternating CPR on him with compressions. And as the other team member was hooking up the pads, the AED pads, and it was analyzing the heart rate. It told us to stand back, asked us to activate the AED, activated it. The patient jumped out of his chest, popped out of the chair, and we continued CPR until EMS arrived. And they took him away and took him to the local hospital, which is a smaller one, then flew him by helicopter to a larger hospital where they had to do an emergency quadruple bypass. And that was a picture I showed you of that guy with my 2 employees. He's only 59 years old, which I don't think is old anymore. And he was very thankful to us for saving his life. It was a team effort. And he came back to thank us. And his wife called us to thank us over and over again. The interesting thing about that was he was scheduled to come in the following day. And we had an opening in the schedule and we brought him in the previous day. And if we hadn't brought him in earlier, he would have died, his wife said, because she works and would have been gone out of the house that day. So it was just, it was a very emotional time. It had its highs and lows for sure. But I just praise the Lord that his life was spared. And it was a reminder to me to really pay attention to CPR, because you know how it goes. You have to take it every few years or so, and you go through the motions. And yeah, I got this, but I'm paying attention more now than I was before. But I really strongly feel and know in my heart that the morning prayer at the huddles was significant, that God was looking up over the practice, over him and the team, that we were able to provide that life-saving service for him. Another area of spiritual care is music that's played in the office. And that's always an area of contention with team members. Everyone has different musical taste. So there's been a lot of, back and forth and what we should listen to and this and that. And I finally just, made the decision as the owner, as the person running the handpiece, that I need to listen to what makes me feel at peace and at calm for the benefit of patient care. So that's how I presented it to my team. This is not about disrespect to your likes or tastes of music, but this is what I need when I'm practicing to provide the best care. And that's what we've done. We usually play, Christian music or some, classical, some good for the brain type music. Ellen White counseled in messages to the young people that music was made to serve a holy purpose, to lift the thoughts to that which is pure, noble, and elevating, and to awaken in the soul devotion and gratitude to God. I just think that's such a powerful quote, to awaken in the soul devotion and gratitude to God. Because that, that's really the type of environment we want to foster in our practices. And music plays a big role in that. She also said in BOE, which is the book Beginning of the End, singing is as much an act of worship as is prayer. So, the type of music, the environment we set in the practice is really is a big deal, and it's part of our spiritual care in our offices. The other objective I want to talk about today is reducing provider stress while increasing production. And there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I'll share some of the main ones that I see that's been helpful to me. One is to have an office manager. And, I didn't do this until about 9 years ago. And I don't know how I ever practiced without one. Yes, it increases overhead, but the amount of stress it reduces to free up space in your head and time for production more than pays for having an office manager. And the office manager I have is a hygienist, and she can administer anesthesia. All of the hygienists I have do. We have 4. And she can, provide anesthesia for me for a patient, which helps, the office flow, and just do a lot of the things that took up a lot of headspace for me to get done throughout the day. Something to seriously think about is getting an office manager if you don't already have one. I don't know what the laws are in your state regarding hygienists giving anesthesia, but I incorporate all of my hygienists to do that for me with my patients, and that really helps me go from room to room and be productive. A 3D X-ray is critical. I know probably all or most of you may have one by now, but that is invaluable when you're doing surgeries, even endo. You can look at the root curvature, the number of canals. You can, measure the length of the canal prior to even going in to start the procedure. Placing implants, looking at bone volume, availability, extracting teeth. Do I want to do this or do I want to refer? I mean, you can make quick judgment calls that are very productive, and not get yourself into a situation you shouldn't be in, or by looking at it, say, yeah, there's this is doable and you can do it, and it's a productive procedure. So a 3D X-ray is huge. Same day dentistry, if you're not incorporating that into your practice, you really need to develop the system for that, because that will really ramp up your production. Like if you're diagnosing something in hygiene at a check, let's say it's a crown of number 3, and the hygienist finishes up their prophy, they anesthetize, that patient hops in another op, you prep and take 5 or 10 minutes to prep it. Those things are really productive, but you need the systems in place for that. And there's so many advantages of same day dentistry. Patients don't go home and change their mind. They don't have to set up another appointment. Particularly with this COVID thing, it's a big deal to, for screening and all that, to get them appointed. So it just takes longer. So if they can do that while they're already there, they've already been screened, is a huge benefit to the practice and to the patients as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the Colby Index. It's kind of like a personality test, but it doesn't measure personality or intelligence. It measures the instinctive ways a person, takes action. And this is a great tool. I use it for hiring. When I do hire, if I have it narrowed down to a couple people, I have each one take the Colby Index, and it tells me a lot of valuable information, how they're motivated and how they're going to work. And if you can have an assistant that it's called a quick start um, attribute to the test, where they just want to be busy, they have to be doing something, and they like deadlines, they react spontaneously. I don't think it's a good idea to have all your assistants have this, but to have someone like that really helps the practice flow, and getting that same day dentistry going. um, and That's something to consider as you're looking, if you're looking for an assistant. Becoming proficient at many types of procedures is important. The more you can do, the more productive you can be. Of course, there's things that all of us like doing more than others, or we um, don't like certain things, so we avoid those. But if you can choose the things you like to do and that are productive and get proficient, and then market those things, is really important. I think surgery is one of the areas that can be really productive, whether that's extractions, multiple extractions, placing implants, bone reduction, things like that. That's a skill that really allows you to do a lot of things. And so taking a course on that, I would highly recommend. I chose to do one in Dominican Republic. And if you go to another country like that, you're allowed to do a lot more things with less regulation. And just did a ton of surgery, placed a bunch of implants, and you just come back confident and ready to go. So incorporating something like that into your training would be highly beneficial to your practice. With efficiency, it's great if you can video your procedures, particularly things you do a lot, like crown preps and composite restorations, and get the patient's permission, and you videotape the procedure, and you'll really see a lot of areas that you're wasting movements and wasting time. And that's really helpful as a diagnosis measure. And as far as dental platforms for information to get efficiency ideas, Dental Town is a great one. If you haven't been on that or checked that out, I recommend it. There's just thousands of topics on there. So if you want to look into something, wondering if it's going to be efficient, what's the best way to go, what product is good, whatever you're wondering about, get on Dental Town, search your topic, and you can see all kinds of conversations around it, and it can give you good ideas to help you make your decision. That's helped me tremendously in becoming more efficient. The last objective I had was, how to experience more joy in a busy dental practice. And the topics that we already talked about kind of dovetails into that. It plays a role in the joy that you feel throughout the day, being more efficient with your procedures and spiritual care, those types of things. So, really, giving back and, donated dentistry, serving others in that capacity is really what brings the joy, the deep fulfillment that the Bible talks about. And it's something that, the things that we've talked about creates the space for that. So if we are efficient um, in our procedures, it creates the space, the time to give back, to donate some dentistry. If we are productive, if we have productive days, it doesn't feel like such a burden or hurdle to get over to do something for a patient. It all it all plays a role. It helps with that. um, you know Talked a little bit about mission trips earlier. That brings so much joy to the office, just thinking about it, planning for it, both leading up to the mission trip and after the mission trip, is a big thing. And of course, I talked about doing the health expos in town. um, the one health expo was about 3 years ago. A patient came into my office needing a crown, and the expo was the following day. I said, hey, I'll be there tomorrow. I'll come tomorrow and we'll do the crown there. So he did that, and he started coming to the church with the men's group Bible study at 6 a.m. on Thursday mornings, and he's still doing it 3 years later. So you never know what can come of giving back and things like that. It's been a big blessing, and I know you guys all do that in different aspects. Having photos of your mission trips in the practice is important, and whether that's on a big screen in your waiting room, which probably is best now because paper products are gone, the magazines, the pamphlets. That's the other thing this COVID it's hit the spiritual care aspect in our office, where we can't, for now, have things like that out. But sharing, they can see the visual of what you're doing and giving back, because patients have a tendency to think we're just rich dentists, and they look at what we charge. They have no idea what the overhead is and the cost and things. But for them to see that we are giving back, we are blessing others, and it's not all about us, is important communication to have in the office. And preaching to the choir here, but to have a unified team is huge. I mean, we've all seen days where our team was just clicking, unified, having fun, energized, and those days the production just goes up. In those days where you kind of feel the tension in the office, it affects the production. There's no doubt about it. There's a direct correlation between team unity and energy and production. I've seen it over and over again. So as much as we can do as practitioners to unify the team will increase their joy and your joy and the patient's joy. And it's challenging at times. There's no doubt about it. One of the biggest hits to unity is gossip. And, we've implemented in the practice a no gossip rule. And if they gossip about somebody, that it could be terms for termination. It's that serious. We want to be uplifting and supportive of each other. If you can't talk about someone with another person without them there, then you shouldn't be saying it. And if you have a problem with somebody, you go talk with them and yourself. And then if you can't resolve it, come with to me or the office manager to help with that. But maintaining unity in the practice is just, I can't emphasize that enough. And you've all seen that. And we've, at a team meeting, we've even decided to pick a word. So if you're talking with a team member and it sounds like it might be getting into the gossip realm, they use that keyword, and it kind of notifies each other that one is uncomfortable with the conversation and that it can end there. So that's been good. And you get agreement at a team meeting, you get agreement from everyone that, okay, we're going to choose a word, and if I feel like it's getting gossipy, it may or may not, I'm going to use that word, and so we can end it then. So the other person isn't offended by it, because we have agreement on it. So that's been helpful to avoid, gossip situations and to maintain the unity in the office. We have a fresh bouquet of flowers each week at the front desk. And if a patient is having a particularly bad week, or some issue in their life, we just give them the bouquet of flowers. And that's been a big blessing to patients and the team, and just changes the dynamic of the day when that's done. And the other thing that we do is, when we're communicating with the patients, that we're very diligent in writing down the patient's hobbies, likes, just little things that's unique to them. And we do special things for them along those lines. If a patient likes fudge, the next time they have an appointment, they come in, we give them some fudge, or a gift certificate to something specific that they like. My assistants were telling me the thing they did the other day, is a kid liked Pokemon, so they got some Pokemon cards and hid them throughout the office, and he got to go look for their Pokemon cards after the appointment. And so, all the team members have their free will to make a decision on what to do for patients. You can give them a budget like $20, $30, $50, or whatever it is, so they can just go and do it. And that, that's a big marketing thing that we've done. It's been very effective, and it brings a lot of joy in the office. So I think that's all I had to share for today. It's kind of a medley of topics, but I hope you're able to draw something from it that will benefit you in your practices. And I don't know how much time we have left, but I think we have a few minutes to, if you have any questions, feel free.
Hi, Brock. I have a question. It's Kiana. You mentioned that you have done, you've been an associate, you've been a partner, you've owned practices. Which did you prefer? What hat or what role did you like best? And if it's different, which one did you feel gave you the complete piece that you were looking for in terms of practice and ministry, family, everything? If it's different, then which one do you prefer?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably a tie. One would be the 50-50 partner is really nice, because you share expenses, you cover each other when you're away, and there's a lot of benefits of networking and things like that with a 50-50 partner. But it has to be the right person. If it's not, it's a nightmare. It's like a marriage. The partnership that I was in was great. He was a great guy, mentor. We both went to University of Michigan. We had similar philosophies. He was a Christian. So things that worked out really good. but it can have some challenges. Even if you have a great partner, you may have different ideas on how to market and things like that. The other role I really like is being a owner with an associate, because you had the benefit of covering each other when you're gone to keep the practice moving forward and productive, and another person to bounce things off of. But that typically isn't a long-term thing. It's someone who comes in to either buy your practice out, or transition, get some experience so they can own their own practice. The second practice I have is about an hour away, and I have an associate there, and he's about my age, 52, 53, and he doesn't want to own a practice. He just wants to come and work. So I have a manager there, and he comes and works, and that's a great for him, great for me. The associate I have now at the practice that I work currently is just finished school. She graduated at the University of Michigan as well, then did a AEGD residency in New Mexico, and then came to my office. But she's been great too. Really impressed with her, clinical skills early on. So, from that, probably the most ideal from the different experiences, I would lean a little bit more towards the owner with associate, if you can find the right situation.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome. Any other questions, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yeah, hi Phil.
Yeah, how you doing? What type of marketing are you doing, especially during this, whole COVID crisis and things like that? What kind of things are you doing to kind of ease the patient to have them come in without being overly fear over this madness, that's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's been challenging for sure. We started out with, we opened back up in June 1st, screening everybody on the phone, and doing parking lot. We have someone go out to the parking lot to the car, do the temp before we brought them in. A lot of phone calls, screening, and making sure they understand if they have a temperature, any kind of symptoms, that they call and cancel their appointment. And then with we probably did that for a couple months, and we transitioned into I had the nice comfy waiting room with couches and stuff, so we got rid of all that, and put chairs in that were spaced 6 feet. So now we have patients coming in the door. We have a desk there that they get screened at by the appointment coordinator, and then they take a seat in the waiting room. As far as marketing, we really haven't, other than Facebook post. We've done that. As far as expectations and our procedure, we did revamp our website a month ago, but those haven't done a lot of marketing. Is kind of been more, as with all of you, a survival year, trying to figure it all out and making adjustments as you go, and trying to figure out how to stay productive with increased cost, overhead, PPE, and potentially hiring more people to help screening and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that helped answer your question.
Sure did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brock, there's a question in the chat as well. I think it's from Donetta L. And they're asking, what are some barriers to sharing Christ, if you faced any, and how do you overcome them? And I think they asked in the beginning if you're an associate. So I'm not sure if that's just period or if it's as an associate as well.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the heads up on that. I can see the messages there. I'm not an associate. I'm an owner. I have an associate that works with me. Barriers really don't, there aren't really barriers. if you own your practice and there's no, what do I say? There's nothing against it or whatever. You have freedom to do that. If you're an associate and your boss is not a believer, there may be some barriers to sharing. But the biggest barrier in a practice to me is time. With an efficient dental practice, I think is very challenging, like I mentioned earlier. Like I mentioned earlier too, I have some growth in this, and but I would say the biggest barrier is time in sharing Christ and creating the space for that. And the more productive we become, the more efficient, the more space that can open up for that. But I think that's the best way I can answer that question.
Hello, I really would like to know, because I think I misunderstood or I didn't understand correctly about the bouquet flower. What do you do with that? With the flowers?
Yeah, we buy a fresh bouquet of flowers every week, and we put those on the front desk for patients to pick out. And if we have a patient that really would appreciate them or need them, they're having a tough time in their life, we just give that bouquet of flowers to them.
Oh.
If it's early in the week, if it's like a Monday or Tuesday or something, we order another one for the front desk for that week.
Excellent.
If it's towards the end of the week, we usually give it to somebody anyway towards the end of the week if it's still in good.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
I just want to share my contact information. This is
Yes, please.
my
Thank you.
cell phone there, and email address. So you're welcome to call or text or email me anytime.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being patient with my technology deficiencies and listening. I appreciate you all and the blessing you have been to me, and amen. And have a great rest of the day.